Good morning and welcome to the Workbench. Today on the Workbench I've got the start of another new project. Is it new? No, it's not. It's actually quite an old project. What we have on the Workbench is a vintage radio, as you can see. Now this is branded Jonell, which turns out to be a John Lewis own brand radio. Now I've had to do a lot of digging and I've eventually come up with the fact that this was made by a company called Ace Radio somewhere between 1945 and 1951. It's branded Jonell. It's 3 wave bands. It's got long, medium and short wave. It has 5 valves, and it's your standard 1950s super heterodyne receiver. Looking at it, the case has got the ubiquitous plant pot and coffee cup stains on the front, and there's quite a bit of scratching and damage to the actual wood itself. As far as controls, the waveband switch seems to be reasonably intact. The tone is actually done by switch, and it seems grindy, is probably the best way to describe it. It's not as smooth as it could be. The volume control has the power switch clicking on and off, and that feels reasonable, and the tuning dial doesn't. It's either got a broken dial cord or there's something jammed, because looking at this, it's slightly back in the casing. So that's the front of the radio. That's what it looks like there. What I'll do now is I'll turn it round and we can have a look at the back panel. Okay, here's the back of the radio. Now, the first thing I've noticed is there is no back panel. There's a slight curve in the wood there, but not enough to worry about. It still feels structurally sound as a cabinet. The obvious one here is we do have some rust on the chassis. We have some rust at the bottom of the chassis. It has an external loudspeaker connection, an input for a radiogram, so it would be ideal to convert to a MP3 player, because it's already got the parts there if you wanted to. Personally, I think that's a bit of an affront, and it's got an aerial socket. It doesn't look like it has any form of built-in antenna, so you are working completely from an external piece of wire. Running through, it's quite a small mains transformer. Now, whether that is a transformer just for the valve heaters or whether it's a full transformer for the HT as well, I've yet to check that out. As I say, we have the 5 valves. We have the 6x5 rectifier. We actually have a 6v6 output tube. This is a 6Q7. Under here we have, if I just pull this off, an old, let me just see if I can get it out the socket, because I can't remember what it is. Although from the literature I've got, this valve is actually not the correct one. A Mullard EF39. Now that should be a 6K7, I believe. And then at the back, behind here, we have a 6K8. So a standard 1950s, 1940s, 1950s tube layout. Small electrolytic there. I say small because it's 16 and 16. It's a dual electrolytic. And we have a little loudspeaker here. It looks like 5 or 6 inches across, and it's marked R and A. I think that looks like. As I was saying about the dial cord, it looks like it's either come off or it's broken. It looks like it's actually just come off, so we might have got away with that. So that's the first impression of the inside at the back. Now, the next job I will have, I suppose, is to get this out of the cabinet, and let me just check. Right, the speaker wires are soldered in, so we'll have to desolder the speaker wires, and there's the cabinet lamps which I'll have to I might not have to take off if the whole lot comes back. Not sure how that fits in just yet, but let me take it a bit, and we'll come back to you, and you can see what the rest of the chassis looks like. Back shortly. Here we are, out of the chassis now, and as I took it out, several bits of the wood that support the cabinet fell out where the glue had dried up. So I've managed to catch all of those. I desoldered the speaker. Now these wires, they're still reasonably flexible, and that's because they're cloth covered, not rubber. So it sort of tends to date the set a little bit earlier than rubber. So, you know, hopefully the rest of it should be quite good. Again, the pilot lights here, the dial lights, are again in a cloth covered wire. It looks like somebody's spilt some solder on there, so somebody has actually been in this set before. Well, since 1950, I wouldn't be surprised. We're looking at what, 70 odd years old, so I'm not surprised. So this would be our input transformer, our mains transformer, which without doing any electrical tests on, as I say, it looks small but may just be good enough. This is our output transformer, which supplies the speaker, and there are the speaker wires and the dial. Now I did, while I had it coming out, I did manage to restring the dial cord, and it's got quite a nice little feature that you've got a fine movement for tuning in, as well as when you get to a certain point it goes into a coarse mode. So that's quite a nice feature. It squeaks, it rattles, so something's rubbing. Obviously I think it's actually rubbing on the glass here where the needle may be slightly bent. Now I noticed that when you turn it all the way to one end, the capacitor is fully open and this isn't flat, so without putting it onto a signal generator to see where it should be at the ends of its travel, I wouldn't like to say that, you know, it's right or wrong, but it's from this side it looks reasonable. Obviously we have dirt, the controls need stripping down and lubricating. The grease in all of these has gone a little bit stiff, so that's the top side. Let's put it over. Best way to do this, probably putting it onto its back like so. Let me take that wander plug out of the back. Let's see, can I rest it on the transformer? I can rest it on the IF cans. So here we have the back side, and it's your standard, what can I say, it's your standard looking radio receiver, working in from the transforms. It seems like we have a choke in here as well, or that could be interstage. So let's have a look. The mains wiring comes in here, goes to the switch. The switch then disappears off to where's it? It disappears off to here, which goes to there's a capacitor, an 8 microfarad capacitor, which goes to here. There's also where's the other side of it go? So you've got a switch goes into here, into this capacitor here. So let's have a look. It should actually hit the rectifier valve first. There's the rectifier. See, now some of these wires are rubber covered, or they're sleeved. So I don't know how much of this is original and how much is not. So you've got both power wires coming in. One goes off to this transformer on the top. There's a resistor there. Without measuring this through, it's going to be a little bit of a mystery at this stage. What we can say though is we've got all of these paper capacitors. That one says 750 volts working, so does that one. 350 volts DC, 350 volts DC. You've got one here which is coming straight from that resistor, which is a little bit crusty. This is definitely not original because of the way, the fact that this wouldn't have been left floating in the air like this. So I have a feeling that this has been played with. This isn't as standard as it looks. That goes to the chassis. That very strange at the moment. The switch for, I believe that's the band change switch, isn't it? Or is that, no, that's the tone switch. Yeah, that's the tone switch. Looks a bit mucky. The band change switch here, it's got a very nice action on it, a bit stiff, especially without its control knob on it, but yeah, and this dial cord assembly, again, it just needs cleaning and lubricating. That's just rubbing through there. So can I get you in any closer? Let's have a look. Not without whipping you off the tripod there. So for a first look, there's not really that many components in there to worry about. Standard IF can, so you know, antenna connector is this one. So one goes off to the chassis, one goes off to the antenna itself. So there's a Hunt's capacitor, a little flat, I think it's a mica. First valve here. Just trying to work this out from the bottom side. That would be the first valve there. into the IF, next valve to amplify, another IF, detector, and then into your audio valve, this being your rectifier here. So yeah, fairly straightforward. There's you name it, there seems to be all sorts of bits and pieces in here, but I think this will be a reasonably nice project. Now, I haven't decided which way I'm going to attack this, and I say attack in the nicest possible way. I don't know whether I'm going to do a complete strip down and attempt to restore, or whether I'm going to do a quick rub up and polish and you know, get it to go in that fashion. It's you know, which way to go. Obviously, whatever I do, I'm going to have to get rid of this rust. This is obviously a steel chassis. That capacitor looks definitely suspect, so I'm probably going to have to replace it with a modern equivalence. I'll probably leave that one in position just to keep the original look, but mount some tag strips underneath here to mount the capacitor properly. What else? Yeah, replace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 capacitors at least. Certainly a few of these old resistors may well be out of tolerance. Now this grid wire here is falling apart there, but also the actual grid caps have been very badly sort of mangled, so I'll probably change the caps for the valves anyway, and put in new wiring for that. But yeah, you know, for a nice simple 3-wave band set, it looks reasonably good. First looks, there we go. I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks very much for watching this video, and hopefully we shall see you soon for the next one. Goodbye for now.